Good morning, everyone. I'm calling the meeting for Tuesday, September 16, 2025 in order. It's 9 a.m. I need approval of the minutes Tuesday, July 15, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Hey, Jim. Do I have a second? And I think you're still
Yeah.
muted. Thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
Okay, any discussion? No? I think that's been moved and approved. We need a motion for the minutes for Tuesday, August 19, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I sent a note. I did not see them. I don't expect there was much there, but I couldn't find them in the packet.
Okay, we'll table those minutes to the next meeting. Thank you. Okay, any public comment? Do we have anybody in Zoom? Okay, all right. Please state your name, address. Thank you.
My name is Randy Neal, I'm PO Box 1092. I hope you'll give me a little leeway. I guess I'm the only public comment, and this may be the only public comment on this.
So this is not more than 10 minutes. We'll give you five.
I don't know if you know me, my background's chief financial officer. I worked for Intel for many years. Part of that, I was the finance guy in charge of facilities worldwide. So building buildings and operating buildings and things like that. After that, I worked at the shipyard down on Swan Island. I don't know if you've ever been by it, but you'll see, 10, 12 different giant water tanks. They need to basically, pump out build water to get it out of the ship. That's what keeps it balanced. And basically, before you can fix it, you got to empty it out so you can put people inside and weld and whatever. And then the way you get a ship up out of the water is you basically lift it using a dry dock, which is either pumping water into it, pumping water out of it, and all that is basically bilge water as well that needs to be treated cleaner than than putting it back into the river. So I'm not a water expert, but I do sort of understand the mechanics of the expenses and the other thing is water rates. About January this past year, I offered my services to the Elk Creek apartment folks, and they were trying to understand why their water bill had tripled over the ensuing years. And the answer turned out to be it had tripled, but nobody else's had tripled. They were paying 3 times more for a 2-bedroom apartment than a typical house in Canada was paying. They hadn't been using any more water. When it was all said and done, it was a bad methodology that had been put in place a long time ago. The city ended up giving them $150,000 credit. In June, I started looking into why is the water rates expected to triple? I know we spend about $1.5 million spending on water for operating and maintenance. To triple rates means that spending is going to go from 1.5 million to 4.5 million. And I couldn't understand how that could be. I mean, even with $20 million of capital improvements going on for water resiliency, take $20 million divided by 30 years, that's $700,000 or $800,000. That gets you to 2 million, 2.5 million maybe. It doesn't get you to 4.5. So when we went through that, it was pretty clear that some of the assumptions that have been used, how some of those assumptions have been applied, some of the mechanics that had gone into that rate calculation was flawed. Do I know what the answer is? No, I have been looking into it since that time. So I'd like to go through some of it just quickly. One of the things that I've learned and looking at this rate problem is, we're actually using less water. We've gone 5 straight years using less water and less water. We're not down to the point of using about the same amount of water we did in 2015. This particular master plan basically starts from today and says, we're gonna grow. We're not gonna grow a lot, year after year after year, but we are gonna grow. Well, I don't believe that's true. It's based on a Portland State population study, which is basically, it takes, how much do we think Oregon's gonna grow, and then piece it down into each of the little cities. It doesn't know what's going on here. One of the things that's going on here is, we're having a massive shift between occupied homes and vacant homes. In the last 5 years, we've probably shifted 200 homes from being occupied, people living here, using water day in and day out, to they become second homes. The other thing that's happened is, we've gone from a lot of short-term rental nights to, after the restriction, we have fewer short-term rental nights. So that's another place where we used to have homes that were occupied, in a different definition, that are now vacant, at least, 15 days of the month or something like that. So there's a big shift going on. And this particular plan doesn't seem to address that. There's a lot of issues in that. Even if we think that spending is going to be flat, we're dropping like 4% per year in terms of water usage. So that means the rates have to go up 4%, even if spending is flat. But spending hasn't been flat. Spending has been increasing, and spending is projected in this year's budget to basically take a jump of 29%. And that was on top of a 29% increase last year. It used to be that, wastewater costs 10 to 15% more than water to operate and maintain, not the capital, but just the maintenance of it all. And that is flip-flopped. We're now spending more on water than we are on wastewater. And we know that wastewater takes more, it's more headcount, it's more chemicals, et cetera. So, and this particular plan doesn't seem to address, what's going on with our spending, and are there ways to get that back in line if we're dropping, the amount of water we're producing and treating and whatever. You'd hope that spending would stay at least about flat, let alone going up by 30% per year for the last 2 years. So there's some concerns. The other concern I have is, this on page 1 basically says this is the 95% draft, which basically implies to me that this is just about ready to get your approval and take it to council and lock in these projects to be done into the future. There's a paragraph in the first section, paragraph 1.5. It's called community engagement. And basically it says the city provided opportunities for community engagement in the planning process, allowing residents to offer comments, ask questions through the city website and during city council meetings. Before approval, both the public and elected officials have had the opportunity to review and comment on this document during city council meetings. I don't know about you, but this is the first time I've seen it, heard it, 4 days ago. I've looked through your past meeting minutes. I see no presentation of this master water plan in the 2 years that it said it was, begun. The document says this was authorized in September of 2023. That's 2 years ago. And I would have hoped there were at least a couple of interim reviews of what you're going to see today. And I wish there would have been some reviews by the public of what's going on, what do we want to do, does this reflect our priorities for our city, et cetera. I know I participated in the Parks Master Plan many years ago. It got lots of public input. I also know I participated in the Transportation Plan, Strategic Plan, and it got lots of public input. This one seems to have been done in the background and really has had no public input or public review. And I think that's wrong. I've talked about the decline in water. Another reason for this is, this document lists the 10 top users. One of those users, the Pelican Brewery, is no longer brewing beer here in town. So that's another reason for the decrease. And then the question is it because it's become too costly? Our volume rate is now more like $11 per unit. Or is it because their brewmaster can't afford to find a place and live here in town? Which leads me to another topic of housing. Housing is one of the most important topics in town here. And we talk about it, we say we need more housing, whatever. But a quick, review of this particular master plan talks nothing about what we are doing to create water for the places that we might need to be putting housing. I mean, there are buildable places on the fringes of town. There are large lots that probably could be used, but they don't have water today. They don't have utilities today. And this is a plan that takes us out through 2045. And having no discussion about, what is the water needs for our future housing is not good. Sorry. I'm not very prepared today. We also talk about water usage with the visitors. I don't know if I've never really seen anything through either city councils or public works meetings or whatever that talks about unit stuff. If I was the chief executive officer of the city, I would like to know, is my visitor count up? Is it down? Is it flat? I don't really see that very often. I don't know that anybody knows. I think we all just assume we're getting more and more visitors. The chamber here has a Datafy kind of subscription service that keeps track of how many cell phones are in town. If you look at that, we're pretty much flat for the last 5 or 6 years. If you look at the water usage for the public restrooms, it's pretty much flat for the past 5 years. If you look at the data that comes from the state on how many visitors we get into Ecola State Park, Bolivana State Park, Hut Point, Arcadia, those kinds of numbers are also basically flat. So we're not going to be getting a huge increase from our visitor counts, although seasonality is an important thing. I mean, that visitor count correlates to the weather, and it's basically the weather in Portland. More people, the better the weather here, the better the weather in Portland, the more people we get here. So seasonality is important. So basically what I'd like to say is, just like the FCS rate study that we went through, this one seems to be based on some flawed assumptions. Like the housing group, this seems to have tried to avoid any type of public input, or public review. It's ignoring some key ongoing problems, whether it's the increase in spending levels, or, as you can see in the report, we have some significant water losses. It omits some key elements of our comprehensive plan. There's, just like housing, there's no mention of what do we expect to do with Southland over the next 20 years through 2045. And it omits our most strategic issue at the moment, housing. It somewhat seems to be more of the same thing, big projects. I know the last master plan had basically a long list of pipe replacements that are supposed to be done. This basically says we need to be doing 1,000 linear feet each and every year. It's basically close to 7-10 years since we did the first master plan. How have we done against the ongoing replacement of real pipes? This particular plan is basically saying the same thing. Year after year after year after year, we need to be replacing pipes. And will we really do it? It doesn't show in this plan. It doesn't, I don't know that we've ever seen real reporting about it. But, you know, have we been following through with all the levels of replacements that we've expected? You know, that plan expected to do, and this plan also expects to do. You know, so that's all I've got.
Thank you, we appreciate it. But, have you considered joining the Public Works Committee?
Yes, Karen asked me a couple of years ago, and basically I said I didn't think it was a very good use of my time, because primarily this committee is spends a good deal of time in its major, it seems like its major focus is giving water credits, water release. No, there are no real presentations to you about what's going on in water and wastewater. There are no statistics that you really see on a regular or general basis. You do get lots of stories of what's going on and what we'd like to do or what we should do or whatever, but I think, you know, often my time spent in better ways on some of these financial issues.
Thank you, but you'd be surprised, we do get some, every time we request something, we do get it, and we don't do the story, so I think you would be interested on joining our team. But think about it.
We have a Richard online.
Richard?
Yes.
Okay, Richard, your turn. Please state your name, complete name and address.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
This is Richard Bertolotti, P.O. Box 1382. I'm a former member of the Public Works Committee, and I get the agendas every month, and I usually kind of look at them and ignore them, but I saw the new water master plan, and I was kind of surprised at some of the numbers in there, and I have a question for Karen. The last time I talked to her, she indicated that there were some ongoing or expected discussions with the landowners of the forest property above our springs. I would like to get an update on where that all stands. I was surprised that the new water master plan calls for about $2.6 million for land acquisition, where the old plan was at about $500,000. And the other thing that I was looking at when I looked at the master plan was the seismic water flow devices that are budgeted at about $2 million. I know we have installed some of those, and I know that there is one going in the new reservoir that's being constructed. So I'm curious as to why there would need to be 4 more seismic shutoff valves in the system when we basically have covered all the stored water that's there. I don't have a lot of additional questions. I won't go on quite as long as Randy did, but again, I was surprised by the fact that we had a new master plan in the works as quickly as we did. I thought the old one was a 20-year plan, and very likely, I mean, I just missed it, and it was going to be renewed in 10 years. But that was a concern I had, that we had a new master plan so quickly. I appreciate the time to make comments. Thank you.
thank you, Richard. You want to do that afterwards?
Yeah, I'd like to let them present the plan so that everybody has a chance to hear it, and then I'll address the stuff at the
That's
general
right.
public works.
Okay, let's go to our action items, utility relief for Greg Van Horn. Do I have a motion to approve this request? And the amount is $369.20.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Has been moved and approved. Thank you. All right, discussion and information items.
Okay,
Yes.
let me introduce Travis Charmanen and Mallory from Windsor Engineers. They're going to present our water master plan. It's unfortunate, Mr. Neal didn't stay to hear the dialogue about the plans, but as so typical of people that share information, but they don't always stick around to get the factual details. It's unfortunate. As you guys know, we've been talking about the water master plan for well over a year. As you see, we have a vast audience of public participant today. And our transition of members, volunteers within our committee is what's happening. We had Steve, Scott, and Doug that were involved in the committee for 4 to 8 years respectively. And now we have new members, which we're grateful for, and we need 2 more to make our committee complete. I don't think this Public Works Committee has ever shied away from public comment. We've certainly gone out of our way to invite it. And so I want to make sure you guys know that I appreciate everything you've done around that. And so take that perspective and focus, and not personally, because you guys have done a great job with that. Mallory and Travis, let's dive right into the plan, because I want everybody to be able to hear this, and anything more that we want to get back from the committee on adjustments would be great. And if you will, talk about the seismic valves, the additional ones that we've identified in the plan, and why we've identified things.
Yeah, we really appreciate the invitation to join you all. Mallory, I don't take very much credit for this. Mallory's been working very hard with city staff, and it's been a good process with a lot of engagement. Despite the city staff being overwhelmed with so many things going on. Mallory will present the information. I think you're wondering how much you should address the comments during that we heard.
Yeah, go ahead and present the plan, and then we'll take input when we get through it. If there's questions based on individual projects that you guys would like to pause and ask, please just do a show of hands or say, hey, I've got a question. It's meant to be interactive, but I want to try to give you guys as much information as possible. This is not a race, okay? Today is not meant to have your final decisions on everything. So if there's anything throughout the plan, based on your review of it and our discussion today, that you want to continue to work on, then we do that. The goal here is to get us a revised set of master plans that the city can work on as objectives. These are public works objectives to my team. Just touching lightly on the comment earlier about the housing, that's not your scope.
Correct.
It's a planning scope, and should we get direction from council asking us to do any kind of study relative to the pressure on our water system relative to additional growth? They did that earlier, some years back, and Windsor Engineers actually did a study relative to our available water and potential demands on the system relative to affordable housing. There was no direction from council for us to do anything of that fashion within our master plan. So to spend time and money to put something in a master plan that council has not given us the nod on is very inappropriate for our scope and our team. So I would just say, for right now, until we get that direction, that wouldn't be something I would want to see in the plan. All right, hit it now.
All right, thanks for being here, everybody. So the intention today is to go over what we've done so far on the master plan, give you an overview of what we've done and go over the CIP in particular. And just to be clear, the CIP is a plan, it's a capital improvement plan. These aren't projects you have to do, these aren't contracts. Their cost estimates, your previous plan, a lot of the cost estimates came in low, so we did spend time just to make sure we weren't lowballing the estimates. So we'll just kind of get in. Hopefully you were able to access the packet and the online version. And do we have people online that I can acknowledge too?
And were you able to review the master plans online? Okay,
I was, thank you.
great.
Okay, I am.
Hello.
Dan, the only one still on.
No,
I think Richard is-
Richard's on.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think Richard's.
Okay. Great, so I have my digital version pulled up and Trevor is gonna just kind of click around, and we'll say the pages, so if you happen to have it pulled up, we'll let you know the page, and when we talk about the pages, I'm gonna say the big PDF, it's 141 pages without the appendices. So I'm gonna say the number, that's in the PDF. So we're just kind of starting on, the first page, the cover here. Yeah, we do consider this a 95% draft. It is not done. A lot can happen in the last 5% in terms of, tweaking things and order things. OHA requires a master plan update every 10 years, so we're getting to be at that time. The last one was in 2017. And we also like to have plans get updated when the previous plan doesn't necessarily represent what your system looks like anymore. Since the last plan, you had your 2019 seismic resiliency plan done that had a lot of really important seismic projects in it. And those were not included in your last plan. And you've also made great strides in your seismic projects since the last plan, so we wanted to make sure we included those in this updated plan.
And water line replacements.
Yeah, and the water line replacement, yeah. All right, so we're gonna go over the TOC, page 2, table of contents. Just a high level of what this plan includes. We have a executive summary, which is just a condensed version of the whole plan. So if you're short on time, I would recommend looking at that. Chapter 1 is all about the planning. So we're looking at where your city limits are, your urban growth area, your zoning. This information all came from city staff in your GIS system. And then we also look at your population. The population is very important because it does drive what we think is gonna happen in the future. We don't know what's gonna happen in the future. We just use our best available information to be able to tell what's gonna happen. And I will touch on, what we use for population is PSU projections. That is a, very well resourced, very common for master planning to use in Oregon, to use PSU. They're highly regarded. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna plead ignorant, I don't know what PSU.
Okay, great. Thank you. Portland State University.
Oh,
Yep, so Portland State University several times a year comes out with census data and estimates by county and city. And then they update their numbers regularly too.
thank you.
Yeah, and I can direct you. Hold on a second.
Yeah, it's important that we have a basis that's justifiable to the public and to the state and stuff. And they are well respected, well commonly used, and it's kind of the
Kind of an industry.
standard, yeah.
Data source.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm not questioning their validity, I just didn't know what PSU.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Understood.
that.
Yeah.
Thanks for like jumping in with that. Okay. Chapter 2, we describe your existing system. And chapter 3 is what the analysis is based on, so it's all the background information of, you know, how do we measure that your treatment plant is doing well? What are all the rules and guidelines about, how we're doing our analysis? And so fire flow standards is a big one in there, and so we've worked with your fire department and fire marshal to make sure that we're using the right numbers to make sure you've got the fire coverage. Chapter 4, this is where it starts to get good. This is the planning data. So we're looking at all the historical water use that you have, consumption and production from your water sources. We're looking at your water audit. We work closely with the folks at GSI who are doing your water audit reports to make sure we're on the same page and we're in line with them. And then we also have our projections in chapter 4. Chapter 5 is the system analysis, so we're just making sure that based on the projections, do you have enough water rights from your sources to support your existing and projected growth? Do you have enough storage to protect your system based on the growth? Can your water treatment plant meet the treatment standards? What about the pumping capacity? Do the pumps in your system, can you meet your maximum day demand in your system with your pumps? So we're just making sure that the capacity of the system can meet what happened in the projections. We also look at in this chapter a bit about operations and maintenance. We talk about the seismic plan, and then we list recommendations there. Chapter 6 looks at hydraulic modeling. This was not included in your previous plan. There is still some work that needs to be done on this, so we're not 100% done. But a hydraulic model is essentially a computer program that simulates what your water system looks like and can map using a lot of math. Can your system meet demands when your pumps are running in different scenarios? So the typical things we look at in hydraulic modeling is, can it meet peak hourly demand based on our projections? And then can you meet a maximum day demand with fires in your system? And just looking at how pressures drop and what your reservoirs are doing to see where you might need to pipe upgrades, or maybe the pressures are dropping too low. So still a little bit more work to do on that portion.
Mallory, Daryl, the city contractor just did some hydrant testing, or is that?
Yeah.
Did you say additional work it's related to?
Yeah, it's related to the calibration. So a model is only as good as it actually reflects what's happening in your system. And so what we do is we flow hydrants in your system and measure the flow that's happening, and then we track how the pressure drops when you open the hydrant. And then we take those real on the ground numbers and we put them into the computer model. And if we can replicate the same thing, then we go thumbs up, great, our model represents what's actually happening. And then we can run some more fine-tuned scenarios with the model to test things that we can't do as easily on paper. And so the initial numbers that we calibrated with, it turned out that they weren't actually as updated and current as we wanted them to be. So we got some new flow numbers very recently. And so that's why there's a little bit of a gap here on that section.
You guys remember we had a IGA with the fire department, and they were doing the flow testing for our hydrants. And they had different people doing it. They were training some people, so the data during those years weren't as tight as when we had a contractor actually coming out. They do this for a living and doing all of the hydrants. There was some continuity there that we lost during that time. So we're back to utilizing that contractor. Mallory was here when they were in the field doing some testing, so she could do a check and balance on the process. And then the data that was coming out of it to utilize in the model. So that's why we're a little behind the 8 ball on getting all that finished up. So our intent is to have them do the entire town. So, and being summertime wasn't the ideal time. So, but we will have that done before the master plan goes forward to council.
Yeah, that's the plan. And just a little caveat on the hydraulic modeling, it's not legally required for your plan, but it's common practice to do it. And it's really nice to have because it can check things that you can't check in real life. So. And then chapter 7, we have our capital improvement program. And this is where we list the individual projects projects come from the system analysis, and we also looked at, projects that were in your, last water plan, and we looked at projects from the seismic plan. And we also talked to city staff about issues that they see happening that maybe weren't reflected in the analysis. And so this is a comprehensive look of, things that you could do to bolster your system. So my thought was to go into the CIP and talk about each project. So let's do that. Or maybe let's look at the population numbers first, just because that's real important, for all of our numbers. So I'm going through chapter 1 here, Trevor, I'm clicking along here, it's towards the very end of chapter 1. I gotta get through all the figures. Okay, so page 34, 1-8 is where we start talking about the historic population. So there are links on there if you want to learn more about PSU and the population estimates. So looking on page 35, on table 1-2, we have the historic population. So 2024, we have a number of 1514. Has decreased since your last plan. And then we'll move forward a few pages. Again, here's the link to the population projections from PSU, and table 1-3 on page 37 has a table of the projected population. So it doesn't change that much. At our build out in 2045, we have a population of 1649. So that's coming from that 1500 number. So there's a very small increase, and even out into the end of the planning period, PSU is saying a 0% increase once we get to 2041. And so the projection numbers that happen in chapter 4 are based on the population projections. So we look at your water use from your records and how many people are here now, and we scale it up based on the population per capita. All right, let's go to chapter 7, CIP. We'll talk through some projects. Is this an hour-long meeting?
It is, but if we wanna go longer and the team says they want to stay longer, we
Okay.
do it, and
Okay.
not be carried it to the next meeting.
Okay. So I'm on page 119. We have a list of projects that have been completed since the last plan. You've done a ton of really great work here. You did some, replaced your media on your filter bed. A lot of really great seismic projects and water main replacements in here. I'm not gonna go into every project you've already done. You can look at that list. Okay, I'm on page 121. So we've broken them up into different sections of types of projects. So we have distribution system improvements. This plan is elected to say you're gonna replace pipe in your system based on length, every year. We have a separate list of areas in your community that we recommend for replacing the pipes. And so depending on other projects that are happening or need, you can pick and choose which ones you wanna do first. Another project we have is to do a study to look at pressures in your system. The storage analysis from chapter 5. You have enough storage in your reservoirs to meet your legal needs in terms of your day-to-day operations and your fire flow storage. we would like to see you have an extra chunk of storage, just like 3 days of storage for emergency uses. Or, just in case, it's your just in case part in your reservoirs, and that would mean you'd have to draw the reservoirs down a little bit lower. And so there's some pressure concerns if you drop your reservoirs too low, that the pressures would get too low in the city. So we have a more detailed study in here to look at what it would take to drop your reservoirs lower and what might need to happen in town to be able to make sure your pressures stay high. We have leak detection studies in here, and this is due to the water loss that you've had. It's gotten so much better. Last year in 2024, it was 23%, and really, really good news. You're making great strides to get that number down. The state wants to see it at 10% or below, which is a really high ask for a small community. It truly is. So we have this in here just so you can keep chipping away, and the pipe replacements are gonna help with that as well. Moving on, project D4 is to upgrade your booster station at Ash Street, putting in a bigger pump to get more fire flow there. It does require a new building to do that.
Now, let me touch on something while we're on, the water loss number. You guys know that every 5 years we're required to do a water master, conservation, plan to the state. Consumption and conservation. And so every 5 years we do that, and we report our lost water. The lost water can come from a number of things. Previously, we were not metering the water that the fire department would use when they would do their hose training and all that kind of stuff. We meter that now. In addition to the 2 big mystery leaks that we had, that it took us forever to find the one because it was right at the creek. And so those 2 numbers made a significant difference. But in our public works committee meetings, you often heard some of our public members come and ask that we be more focused on water conservation. And that water conservation is part of that 5-year plan that we give to the state. So in doing that, the state requires it because most cities buy their water and we don't. And so in pushing that conservation, there's a sweet spot in that scale. And as Randy mentioned, when rates go up, people's behavior is to reduce the amount of water that they use. And we've been espousing, be good stewards of the use of your water. Don't excessively water your yard in July and August and so on and so forth. Well, what happens with that is people stop using so much water, and the city's revenues are impacted by that. And so there is a sweet spot for a city that is fortunate enough to get their water from natural springs like we do, and pushing heavily on water conservation. It's not that we advocate being abusers of a plethora of water available to us, but there is that sweet spot. It's a reasonable balance between being a good steward of the water in our community and having the freedom to use the water that's available to us. And when Windsor did the study for us back in Townsend East, wanting us to look at several things, we're nowhere near reaching our demand or even what our water rights provide for us. And so we do need to watch that number as far as people recoiling and not wanting to use water as a result of some of this stuff. So I wanted to mention that. Go ahead, Melvin.
Great. Okay, I'm on page 123. We're still looking at the CIP projects. The next 2, D5 and 6, are installing some additional fire hydrants. This came out of the previous water plan, and it's about coverage area. And so just making sure that putting hydrants in places to increase your coverage area. Certainly the fire department can use hoses to reach them. But these two projects are to add.
Example of that is East Chinook up in Haystack Heights. That's our phase 2 of us bringing the line across the highway and connecting that system to loop it. The second phase of that is that water line replacement on that street is actually a 4-inch line. We need to replace it with a 6-inch line so that we can put a hydrant, and that's on the street that's backed up to the woods. So if that caught fire, the fire department can be in a defensible position of that.
Let's see. So I'm on page 124, Trevor. Next category is reservoir storage improvements. We don't have any specific projects for this category. It's very much connected to the pressure improvement study, looking at drawing down the reservoirs, but we put that in the distribution system section. So no projects for reservoir. You're currently constructing your new main reservoir, which is really great news. Yeah, very excited and great to have that seismic reservoir going up. All right, so moving on to seismic improvements. We have the HDPE transmission main backbone. Your community's been talking about this one for quite some time. It is a big project. It provides system resiliency in the case of an earthquake, bringing water from the reservoir down into the community. Also provides looping of your system. So this is a great one. And
That's one that we just got the $7+ million award from Business Oregon that council will hear about on October 7th. But we actually have money now to finish that project.
additional seismic improvements on page 125. This is for Ecola Creek raw water intake improvements. Essentially just an emergency water pump and a generator so that in case of emergencies or a seismic emergency, you can put the pump in the creek and at least get water through the reservoirs and into town. And same thing for the next project at the water treatment plant. This isn't a seismic project to bolster the whole treatment plant. That would happen further in the future. Not required at this time. This is simply to put an extra fuel tank and a transfer switch for a generator, again, just to be able to keep the plant running in case of an emergency like a seismic event. All right, seismic valves on page 126. Project SC4. This came out, these projects came out of your seismic resiliency plan. And I believe we have 2 that have already been installed. And so this is 4 additional ones, locations to be determined. So the project would include looking at where the most beneficial locations would be to put the valves to help isolate more parts of your system in the case of.
And that's within town.
In town,
Yeah.
yeah. Do we
So
want to
that
address
addresses Randy's question earlier, is why we're putting more valves in the system than what we just have on our reservoirs. It's to isolate sections of the system in the event of a seismic event.
And just to the point, we have talked about all of this.
Yes,
This,
yeah, none of this should
No,
be
this is
foreign
not
to you guys, so,
right,
this.
yeah. So,
yeah,
you know, in a nutshell, before we run out of time, I wanna say, you know, our focus has been the seismic aspect. It shifted from maintenance and caring for an aging infrastructure to seismic so that we could get the community ready for an event and that the city could care for the people that remain here if they weren't able to be evacuated in that event. And so that was an Oregon State mandate. That became our priority 1 capital project. Council agreed to that focus. We hired an emergency manager to do the same for our cash sites and supplies and training and preparation of our volunteers. And so collectively, that became the focus around water and caring and preparing for the community. And so it was a matter of prioritizing. So yes, many of these line replacements carry over into this new master plan, but realistically, with a community of our size and our population of tourism, you can only do so many line replacements a year. Not only just financially, but just the disruption of the community where people can't get around. And there is a season in which these line replacements would occur. And so you can only go out and buy maybe a couple of line replacements a year. And some of that was put on somewhat hold or less priority to do the size pack. But we still got line replacements done. We did the Haystack, we did the East Harrison, we were replacing line, even though the seismic was going on. We weren't doing it maybe as robustly as we would have had we not had that, but it's about prioritization, what the city and the community can, what's palatable financially and rate increases, and what's palatable of having our town grow. And so you guys have heard this discussion now for the last 8 years that I've been here, and even before I came along. And so the reason we're updating the master plan is because we've made so much progress that that update is needed so that we can see what our next 20 years is gonna look like. So there, when you look at the rates and you're seeing some of the significant adjustments, our role during the rate evaluation, which finance heads that up, and they work with us to do that, is to look at our master plan projects and say, when do you plan to do these projects? So that they know when that financial trigger is gonna be pulled for that project. And will you do it based on utility rates that you're already getting? Or do you plan to go after grants, loans, or other types of funding that might be available? And our team said all the above. We want to use some of our utility rates, but we are also going to pursue outside funding. And we did. We brought almost $20 million to the city of Cannon Beach for our water resiliency to date. And so a balance of that was ratepayer increases, but we also were benefited by a principal forgiveness of those loans that the city didn't have to pay back. And so in addition to that, it was the low interest rate, 1% for all of the loans so far, except this most recent one, which is a 4.12. And you'll hear about that in October council meeting and more in depth. And so when a company is looking at rate increases, they're looking at all those factors. And they're basically doing a run rate over the course of time of those projects being executed or planned. And they're saying, if you move forward, the way you say you're going to move forward, here's what you're going to need financially to be able to execute those projects. And that's how rates are set. And that all goes to council and they either say yay or nay. It's not the Public Works Committee, it's not Public Works staff, it's the council that is agreeing to that. And Janae's been here long enough, she's been a part of that process. So when you look at our wastewater treatment plant that was built, the city went out and got a bond for that. Okay. And that's why the rates at that time were higher for wastewater than it was water, because we hadn't even started our seismic projects. And like Randy said, customarily, you do see wastewater higher than water just because of all the processing that has to happen with wastewater. But what's tilted that the other way is our seismic focus. And so that's why you see that. It will right itself because there's things that we have to do in our wastewater plant as well. But the focus historically has been to maintain and improve an aging infrastructure for this team. And the only thing that's changed that has been this state mandate for every community to be ready and the building of our wastewater plant that we did. Those were the triggers that caused the change in our rates. So, and because the city hasn't done a small incremental, say 3%, like most cities do every year to be able to keep up with the cost of maintenance. We haven't done that. So we have played some catching up in some years and we've had some larger projects to do is because we haven't had that year over year. Like you see with cable, gas, power, everybody does some incremental increase each year, even trash collection, you know, and the city has not done that. So this is where you see those painful, you know, peaks and valleys in our rates. I'm hoping that council will adopt something that helps us smooth that out a little bit. Any other projects you want to highlight before we?
Yeah, let's skip around. There's some seismic evaluations. I'm on page 127. There's, perhaps buying some land to help protect your existing water resources. There's a source capacity analysis, replacing meters on your sources to track flow. Something that's similar but different, on page 129 and 130 is your telemetry and SCADA system. This is gonna come up on the wastewater side as well. So replacing the overall, computer system that is doing the monitoring and controls. And then also the smaller units that are at your reservoirs and your pump stations. So it's split out into several different phases and projects for the telemetry. So you can kind of pick and choose which ones you do. And the big one for the SCADA, we do recommend if you do that one to do it with the wastewater, to kind of do it all at once. So your operations staff can just learn the new system together.
So we currently have some SCADA capability. This takes us to another phase of that. And like Mallory mentioned, we do have some telemetry called Mission that water uses. That's an internet-based tool that we'd like to eliminate and have everything kind of standard, if you will, across water and wastewater. Those two teams are cross-functional now, supporting each other. And as they further increase their knowledge of each other's respective teams so they can back each other up, that tools that you should be familiar to either group, and this would get to that point.
Yeah. I think those are the biggest ones. I'm just gonna click through to make sure I didn't forget anything.
Mallory, there was a question, I think you said his name was Mr. Neal, about the land value increase for purchase compared to last time.
Yeah, so we did look at that specific piece of land and what land was going for in this region in the county. And so we just did some numbers on a per acre, and it was a bit of a sticker shock for us as well. And the last plan, comparatively much lower. It's the same piece of land and the same acreage. It's just the cost per acreage is significantly higher based on current per acre rates in the area.
Hilltops are more expensive than they used to be.
Yeah, and again, that's an item that council would have to give us direction to be able to move forward on. And we have had conversation with them about it and the desire, that's why it stays in the master plan. But again, it's about priorities to what council feels they want us to focus on. And right now it's been the care and the maintenance and the upgrade of our system, so. Let's take a pause and see Ann and both of you guys here, any questions about project specific, anything that we talked about that seems foreign that you haven't heard so far in your time on the committee that you'd like to know more about?
1.6.
I don't want you guys to feel we're pushing this forward till you've had a chance to really look at it. And so I want to make sure we're getting that input from.
I'm relatively new to this process and this is not my background, so I feel like I'm learning a lot. I appreciate everything that you guys have shared, but it seems to me, especially with a little bit more explanation from you, that some of the concerns that I've raised earlier,
Yes,
everything kind of falls into place. It's like, oh, okay, that's why. So,
yes.
I don't have any questions, I guess, is what I'm
Okay.
other than what PSC stands for.
Yeah.
And do you have any questions, concerns?
I guess my feedback at this point is, I think this is excellent comprehensive plan. I appreciated also being new, even newer than Jim. I really appreciated all the background. I think it's a lot to absorb, and I think, yeah, I guess maybe since I haven't been part of this, maybe once we're done kind of talking about the specifics of the plan, maybe just talk a little bit about what the process would look like going forward. And how the input happens, how the rate impact is analyzed. You know, obviously my background is in electric and natural gas utilities, but this looks just the same as capital planning there, and then the consideration of rate impacts on customers and that. So maybe just that's the thing that I feel like I'm missing right now, is just what are the next steps in the process?
That's a great question. And so, two things I want to say is the city's benefited from having different perspectives on master plans, in that the last set of master plans were put together by Civil West. And this set, of course, is with Windsor. So it's been really beneficial to be a part of that, where we could get different perspectives, just not only from an industry standard, but just two very experienced engineering firms looking at our system and seeing where the varied perspectives are. They're very much in line with each other, with the exception of a few items that I think was very smart for us to include. The hydraulic aspect, I think, is a good thing to add. But the process will be just like it was before, where once council adopts this as our focus for the next 20 years, and then we go through a priority ranking, and we take priority 1s, 2s, and 3s. And that took some time for us the first time around. And it takes time to work through the process, in that even when you're doing something as simple as line replacement, you're looking at the whole town and you're saying, okay, if we chose these two this year, how does that disrupt the town? What time of the year are we gonna do it? Where's the money coming from? So on. We get down to the meat of the matter, okay? And the deeper you get into your 20-year master planning and start to pull the trigger, like Mallory said, these are high level estimates. They're not a guesstimate. They're you're doing some level of engineering to be able to get those price factors. But 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, when we're into our 20-year master plan, some vetting needs to still occur to update those things before you can actually pull the trigger. And so you're going through the same process as we do with any other project. As you select what your project is, you're gonna go through the funding process, figure out where the nickels are coming from, get that approval from council, and then you're going through the design, the engineering, the bidding process, and the ultimate construction. So that remains intact, and our next step would be to say, let's pick our priority 1 projects. And I will say that, like the last master plan, just because you rank priority 1, 2, and 3 doesn't mean that you never do a 2 or a 3 until you're done with the 1s. Your funding source is going to drive that, because many times the state or EPA, FEMA, OHA, they will do an invite, and they will say the feds gave us X amount of money, and we're opening an invite to X audience to pursue projects that have these qualifiers for you to chase the money. And when we look at those qualifiers might be a project that's in category 2 instead of category 1. And so I would consult with the committee and say, we just got this invite. We've got, 25 days to turn around our application to chase this money. And that's gonna take me 15 of those 20 days to get this in. So I gotta have an answer. You guys want me to chase this as a priority two, or you want me to let it go by and we stay focused on priority one? And that's what triggers some of the out of the order, selection process. And so, don't get stuck on the priority one, two, and three. Just know that the priority one is our main focus. But you don't lose focus of what's in two or three. If somebody's offering with money, and those are the qualifiers, you go for it, you know? So that would be the key next steps, assuming that this goes forward and council approves it. Your master plans can always be amended. Just like our master plan was amended for water when state put that mandate out, it had already been sent to OHA for approval. We had to pull that back and amend it for the seismic aspect of our master plan. It's called the shrimp. And so should the council decide some of the things that Randy talked about, and they give direction to staff to do that, then it would be Steve's group and my group to say, okay, we're gonna work together and we're gonna make this happen. That would require us to amend our master plan to add those projects to it. And OHA would approve that, and our master plan would become an amended master plan. Those projects would have to be put back in the ranking of what you'd already decided for one, two, or three. Okay, so that's what the next steps would look like. Questions on that, Ann?
No, that's super helpful. I really appreciate it.
Okay. It isn't hard process. It's challenging in the sense that you guys have the burden to work through those priorities with staff telling you, you know, kind of the pros and cons of where you want to slot those things, just logistically. And getting the public's engagement. As you guys know, it's tough to get people to weigh in on it. Usually they'll go to the council and they bypass coming here. And so we try to invite them to come to this forum where we have a good hour to talk about things in great detail. But that doesn't always happen. And so it's challenging to take that criticism when you've done everything you can to invite, and if they don't come, there's not much you can do about it. Other than just tell your neighbors about what's going on, tell them why the projects are happening, to educate them if they don't have time to come here. Okay.
I just wanna say, being your senior board committee member, I've gone through a lot of this first phase and now the second phase, and looking at this project, I mean, I saw this and I was reading it and I was like, wow, I was impressed. I have to say, because it's detailed and very easy to read. For some of us that do not do this all the time, I was just, you know, I was like, wow, this is nice. You know, I was able to just look at it and understand what was going on. And remember, you know, I had to remember some of the things that we have done and all those things. So it was nice to have that and be part of it. So I appreciate all the work that you guys have done. And I appreciate Randy being here, and Richard, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You know, Richard, you have been on this committee before, so we have been through this, and we're not just here to, you know, approve water release.
Yeah.
Thanks, but it's okay if people, you know, see it that way. It's you know, that's what people see. But I just do appreciate people coming in to our meeting and, you know, letting us know how they feel. So that's that. Continue.
Any other questions from the team? How do you feel about where we are? Do you want to put this on next month's agenda again and talk about it further, give you a little more time to go through these? I know some of them are very familiar and some of them aren't. Is there anything you feel we may have left off of the master plan that you think we should be focusing on relative to our water infrastructure? Even that you've heard about in the community, anything?
I don't think I know enough to say there's something that's been left off or everything's concluded, right? Just in terms of moving forward with the meeting, I'm fine staying since we have two people here. I was listening to your conversation where it sounds like you've traveled quite a ways to be here. But I want to be respectful of your time as well.
Oh, I mean, I'm here for this, so if there's more questions,
Oh, you're finished with your presentation.
I am, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I wanna be also
Understood.
respectful of time, we've gone over the high points of the CIP, and have this page 136 up. Or Trevor was showing it while we were just talking, but that's the page that has the list of all the projects, the total
Understood.
cost and the priority rankings, but yeah, I think that we've covered the main parts and. Yeah.
Happy
however
to
you
leave
want
it on
to
your agenda another month and give you guys time to go through it and think about what's been discussed today, before we take it to council. If you're comfortable with what we've talked about today, then our next step is to take it to council and get their input and anybody's input that shows up for the council meeting. So it's your call.
I'm
I think-
comfortable.
Go ahead, sorry.
And I am comfortable with, saying it's fine, but I mean, you guys are so new that I wanna be respectful of, questions and anything that you guys, like to know more. So.
I think for me, just given the comments that were made earlier in the meeting, I think, maybe just bringing it to, our next meeting, we might be able to figure out a way to address some of those concerns ahead of going to, the committee meeting, or the council meeting, for example. You know, just one of the things is, you know, I don't know if it's a sensitivity, but maybe identifying any of the projects that are actually driven by the PSU assumptions and what aren't. Because I suspect that most of these capital improvements are not population driven, given the small amount of population growth that's being forecasted by PSU. And that it might help us get ahead of the feedback that we're receiving and respond to that before we bring it to council. And then any other, and have the opportunity for other people to come to our meeting. And obviously it's a comprehensive, it's a great document, but it does take a little while to digest. So my instincts are maybe bring it back, and we can maybe get ahead of some of the things that might come up in front of the council meeting.
And it's okay for us, when we take it to council, to tell council that this was some of our public feedback during the process. And that we currently did not feel that this was part of our charter to talk about future housing and future growth and things, because our comprehensive plan says they don't want that. So
Exactly.
we asked them if they would like us to add a component of that to our master plan. And if so, if they could quantify that for us so that we're able to address it in a project that would give them some quantifiable results, maybe some sort of a study that hasn't already been done. And I'll remind them, because we have some new council members, that we did that study for them several years back during our master plan process. So that may spur some discussion around that and help Randy feel like his input has been addressed and that council either does or does not want that in our charter. And then we can kind of close that circle of concern.
Mallory, do you have any more input about like the population and those kind of things too?
Well, I appreciated that comment about, what of these projects are population driven. I think that's a really great and important question, and I'm looking through and from what I'm looking at, there are not any population driven projects. These are about your water loss, hardening your system, seismic, fire flow, protecting your water sources and improving your SCADA monitoring for your system. And then just maintaining your existing filter plant. You gotta change the media every now and then. So none of these projects are population, as a function of, oh, hey, we need to bring more water
Right.
in because there's more people.
Yeah, we were feeling some pressures on our system as a result of growth or a burden on the system. Then that would be different, because we would be bringing that forward in council saying, hey, we're seeing some red flags here. And it's happening in the summer with high tourist, season. We're not, none of that is occurring.
I appreciate you saying that, because that's kind of what I took from this whole thing, but you're just saying it makes, obviously,
As our professional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, I
Yes.
appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't, based on where the city's at in the built out. And of course, the current sentiment of the council, it feels like even the next master plan in 10 or 20 years probably won't be growth component. Unless you decide, yeah, we're gonna bring in the next Chinook Winds Casino or,
Right.
Yeah.
or do
Watch your
200,
tongue.
if you do 200 unit workforce housing, then
Right.
yeah, then you might need some changes, but
Yeah.
short of that, a little, 0.5% roads or whatever,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
system's not too small, it's just
No.
not hardened.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, from the analysis and the population, you have capacity to serve. It's more of, it's a seismic issue
Yeah.
and making sure, we can get your storage or fire flow, that's what it's about. It's not a growth issue. And again, you do have the storage to meet your needs right now, so, and in the future.
I promise I won't bring up the casino in the council meetings.
Stop.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's really, to reiterate, it's the continued care and maintenance of an aging infrastructure. Improving the telemetry that our guys control things with and we get alerts from, is really the focus.
And I think this is something that we need to bring ourselves to the public, because right now, I think, Randy, for example, that's what he's, because he hasn't been at this meetings and he hasn't listened to some previous meetings, I think, it has been more than 2 years.
Right,
since we have
right.
been talking about this, so I think you have to weigh that. That's where the people misunderstand things, so, other than that, I feel comfortable sending this to council and then,
Getting some feedback.
getting the feedback from them and letting them know, the concerns about, housing and those kind of things, and see where they want it, where they wanna send us. Cause that's been my, experience. We need to get feedback from them in order for us to move forward.
Yeah,
right
because
now,
they may
we're
ask us
listening
to
the
bring it
same
back to
way.
the committee and do a few more things
Yeah.
on it. And they may not, so we won't know until we talk to them and present it. And if you guys feel you're at a point where you're comfortable doing that, then that would be the next step. And then if they send it back, we make whatever adjustments or refocus some items. And if they say they're happy with it, and we send it forward to the state to get approval, and then that's where once it's adopted, that's where you would start putting your focus on prioritizing those projects. We talk about where the money's coming from.
When you start.
So I think that's the question. Do you want to move forward to council and get some feedback based on what we've talked about and the public input we heard today? Or would you like to just keep it in your own team and go over it one more month amongst yourselves before we go forward?
I think my question's back to you. You all have the experience. Are you feeling good? Again, it's a really well thought out, comprehensive plan, and maybe getting that feedback from the broader council and then bringing it back and seeing how we can problem solve if there are problems. That as long as you all feel good about that, I'm good with that and happy to be there. And as a committee member, not to speak as much, but just to absorb that feedback and then see where we go. I think that makes good sense.
I think that, as your staff person, I'm confident in what we have in the plan. I think some of the dialogue I'd like to have with council not only about the public feedback, but I'd like to ask council if they would consider another rate review with our new finance director and some of the folks that have had the concerns about the rates, and see what scrubbing we could get out of that, so that when you guys prioritize your projects, we know that we've got our rates set appropriately before we continue to move forward.
I think that's a great idea.
And so if you guys are okay with that,
Yep.
I'd like to give them that as part of our collective feedback, is that we've heard this public input. We were part of the original rate review relative to giving them the projects, the ranking order of which we were gonna do them, the funding that we felt we were pursuing that we could potentially get. And, finance and the FCS, which was the consultant that did the rate review, did everything. This team didn't set the rates, they just identified the projects, period. We build it, the nipples counters set the rates, And so, our input to them is, let's make sure we have our rates set appropriately, based on another review, as to where we are and this next set of 20-year master plans before we take off going, to execute any more plans. That would be what I would like to ask council to consider doing.
I just want to make sure I understand what's kind of being asked is, if we send this forward to council, there's still the opportunity for the master plan to come back.
It's, yeah, because they could say, everything that, we just talked about, that I would launch at them saying, here's the things that we talked about. Here's our desires, is that we get some more public feedback at this level, because we're having a hard time getting it at our community level. So we're hoping at the council level, people show up and want to talk about this. But this is the input we did get from Richard and Randy, who've been intimately involved in it. Here's what the committee wants to add to that, is to consider another review of the rates, so that we know we're in a good place from a rate perspective, that the staff and the city is confident and the community is confident. So we take another look at that. Then let's go forward on our master plan. So they can say, I'm fine with the projects, and I appreciate you guys' input. If you're fine with them, we authorize you to go ahead and, get your approval. And this is pending, our hydrology will be complete before we take it to, council. So it would be a complete master plan in draft for them to give any feedback. And if they approve everything that's in it, we would send it to the state while the rate review and this discussion is continuing on the back end. Right. Okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
And are you comfortable with that?
I am.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. Take it away.
All right.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you. Thank
Is
you.
Richard still on? Richard, I just want to say thank you for hanging in and listening to all this dialogue. I would like to know if there's anything you want to add based on everything that you heard us talk about.
We've all allowed to talk.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead, Richard.
Richard, I'd like to invite you to come back to Public Works.
Can you hear us, Richard?
I just stepped away.
You'll probably look at the recordings. Okay, so we could move to Public Works status.
Yeah. We are within, I'd say maybe a week of finishing our lineup in the reserve. We'll get the road put back together. We're still on track for a October 1 opening. It's gonna be close. We had an issue in that last line that they wanted to replace. And so that's what we've been working through over the past week to 9 days. But we're still on par. Things are looking good. The site for the tank is really moving along. It's amazing. Should have had some pictures to do a screen share for you guys today. You'd be amazed at the progress. If any of you are interested in going up and looking at the site, just get with me and we'll coordinate a time when it is safe to take you up there so that you can actually put eyes on it. I would love you guys to see it. We'll send some pictures to you in email. Don't reply, constitutes meeting, but I just want you to be able to see it. But, trust me, pictures don't do it justice. Standing there looking at it live is amazing. So, yeah, we're planning our next phase of when they actually start pouring the concrete for the tank, and it's gonna be a massive effort. It takes a lot of coordination. So I'd like to get you guys up to the tank site to put eyes on it before we start that, if, you so desire.
What would be the states for us to be? I mean, maybe we can, all three of us can do a field trip.
Yeah, tell me a date that works for you guys. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, give us a date, and we gotta confirm that on what activity.
Yeah, we have to tell the contractor.
Every time side wants a truck activity, so.
Yeah,
And, okay, so would this be in the morning or later in the afternoon?
Mid early afternoon.
yeah, probably early afternoon would be best, cause these guys start super early in the morning and they wrap sometime in the afternoon where there's time for us to have them to go.
Or in the afternoon, like maybe 1-ish, 2-ish,
Let's say 2:30.
2:30? I like to just kind of, because I don't want to have, we would be having.
Yeah,
appointments with five.
let's-
Yeah, so can we set up a time, if anybody's interested in going, so maybe like a Thursday or a Friday, maybe next week, the 25th, the 26th, or Monday, the 22nd, anybody need takers?
Yeah, 22nd, Monday would be good.
We won't be back by then, but we will be back by the 26th, if that works.
The 26th,
I'm gone that day.
Okay.
So I could do it the following week
the
after the
29th,
30th.
the 29th,
I work on Mondays, but I could totally do the 30th.
You wanna try to do, the 30th in the afternoon? That's a Tuesday.
I will work with people's schedules. Okay, so let's do the 30th at 2:30.
Yep, everybody meet at the Public Works Yard and I'll send a note out to you confirming that. If the contractor for some reason says, hey, 30th's not a good day, I'll let you know,
Okay, thank you.
okay? And, okay, let's see what else, that's pretty much it. I mean, we have been mono-focused on, 100% this project right now, just trying to get things wrapped up there. It'll feel good to have phase 2, done and really be focusing on the tank site and then, trying to get the bid out for the backbone. And, we won't be able to get the bid out until council has a discussion on October 7th about the funding. They got several options relative to funding, so once they make their decision, then they should give me approval to go ahead and issue the bid. We want the bid to be out, a good 3 weeks to 30 days to give the contractor plenty of time, to respond. So we have a good, responsive audience to the bid and, be able to get them moving on that as soon as possible. So, that's where we are with water projects. Wastewater, the guys are plugging along. We have both new employees, water and wastewater, that are being trained right now, by the respective teammates. And, so that's going well. And, yeah, all is good in Public Works. We're busy interviewing for my replacement. So we hope to have that, done in October. And so, yeah, get ready for that. So we do a handoff, have a good 30-day handoff between me and the new person. So
Right.
anyway, life's good.
Good candidate coming forward.
Yes, we have had some really good candidates, so I'm feeling excited about the potential of who I hand the baton to. It's good.
Anything for good of the order?
You might have seen an announcement, that, Steve Sokolowski announced his, resignation as our planning director. So you'll hear that, out in the Murmur, and, so we'll be doing interviews soon to fill that position as well. So lots of changes on, city staff, and every time we say, oh no, so-and-so's leaving, you know, we always find a great replacement, so, we'll be busy.
I appreciate you both. Thank you so much, and really thank you for that. That, I mean, I've seen previous ones, and I think this one, maybe I was just paying more attention or something. Sure. I really appreciate it, so thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you to the staff, for always doing a great job, and thank you for helping us.